You have queued up the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation recorded at the New York City Concert Hall, Roulette. You can hear thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's past and present and find news of upcoming events celebrating innovation and imagination at roulette.org. Aren't you curious?
Welcome to another edition of the Roulette Tapes. I'm Susan James. Today we focus on the work of composer Ellen Fullman and her innovative long string instrument, a series of strings stretched over an expanse of 50 feet or more and tuned using just intonation. Ellen plays the instrument with rosin-coated fingers and sometimes using custom-built tools. We'll hear Ellen Fullman recounting her early days of experimentation, describing the development of the long string instrument, and discussing the current work in development for a performance at Roulette. We'll hear clips of Ellen's performances with the long string instrument, including a collaboration with cellist Theresa Wong, recorded last year at Mocha in Los Angeles, a performance with JACK Quartet recorded at Artist Space in 2004, and a clip of a track titled Sustained Surface from a forthcoming LP on Room 40, amongst others. And now, the Roulette Tapes presents the music and history of composer Ellen Fullman.
I'm Ellen Fullman, and I'm a composer, among other things. I grew up in Memphis. Early influences are Delta blues music. Very excited about that, listening a lot to that in high school. Getting into making music myself, really, I'd have to say Pauline Oliveros. I was living in St. Paul, Minnesota, and Walker Art Center was like a focal point for performance for me, and I saw it was kind of a lecture called Meeting with the Moderns, the series. Nigel Redden, the museum director, interviewed Pauline, and what she did there was just do some of her sonic meditations with the audience. I mean, she did some talking, but it was very moving. Her presence was so strong and vivid and an inspiration. And then soon thereafter, that was like in the spring of 80. And then I think by June or so was the New Music America Festival hosted at the Walker Art Center. And she, again, was there among many other of my heroes, really. They were at that festival, and it was absolutely thrilling. So I, as a visual artist, I really hadn't made my way into this world of experimentalism. I didn't know it existed. I had a visiting professor at the Kansas City Art Institute. I was in the sculpture department, and she showed me Harry Partch's album. I forget the title, but the one that has it's like a box, and it has a beautiful photo of the entire ensemble of instruments, and he's sitting there on kind of like a high stool. And that really was so exciting for me to see the visual nature of his instruments, and it thrilled me, and I was already building things that made sound, but more sculptural things, and I really, really was excited to try to make musical instruments. So I was living in this loft. I was just so lucky to get into this gigantic, 1,600 square foot space for $180 a month. And it was this small community of artists in St. Paul, downtown St. Paul, Minnesota. And I moved up there directly after graduating from the Kansas City Art Institute. A lot of colleagues of mine had gone into this neighborhood, and so I was working as a prep cook in a restaurant, and the festival, came to town, and there was a producer at this organization called Film in the Cities, which was like an artist facility where artists could go and use video editing equipment. They also had a school, Film in the Cities. And Diane Peterson really appreciated my work, and she advocated for me. And she tried to get me a slot at Music America. I was 23. It was pretty raw what I was doing. And but anyway, so she ended up, Nigel Redden wouldn't go for it, so she produced a show of my work at the gallery in the Film in the Cities. And so that was where I performed for the first time my metal skirt sound sculpture. And then I had some other machine things that I did, including a forward-backwards tape piece, which to my knowledge, I didn't know of anyone working with that except for the Beatles, But, so I memorized a song backwards and then flipped the tape and played it back. I'd been practicing a lot, and it was intelligible. So it was I even played the blues backwards on this homemade kind of chunk of wood with a few strings, and okay. But it was actually a really inventive thing as well, because I used a glass slide, but I put a nub of epoxy glue and carved it kind of into a plectrum, like a bump. And so then it was kind of like a plectrum and a stop at the same time. So I stopped it with the strumming hand, and I could play, I don't know, it was 1 4 1 4 3, just by strumming. And I was playing this backwards, chord sequence and singing backwards. So that's what I did there. And then soon thereafter, I had heard about Alvin Lucier's music on A Long Thin Wire, but I didn't see it because I had this job as a prep cook, and then I was trying to squeeze things in, and I had my performance to give. And then the performance was Diane Peterson used a little minivan that the Walker Art Center had for driving around the artists. She grabbed them. She knew all them, and Pauline, Phil, grabbed them and drove them over to my show. So I had this audience of superstars, and they all, raved about me, and so Nigel Redden, reneged and allowed me to walk on stage to Music America in my metal skirt sound sculpture. So that was my big premiere. I heard of Alvin Lucier's musical on A Long Thin Wire, but I didn't really have time to go see it. And I didn't know what it sounded like, because back then, of course, communications were much slower and more difficult, and I was in the Midwest, far away from everything that was happening on the East Coast or West Coast. And so I thought, well, what might I do with long strings if I manipulated the string manually, if it was just an acoustic thing that I just touched and tried to make some sound with. So I strung up string in this loft space, which was about 50 feet long. And I used coffee cans and emulated a child's walkie-talkie telephone with like large door springs and coffee cans suspended to put tension on the string. And then I used a bow and bowed the string, but it really just made kind of like noise, breathy kind of sound. It wasn't really a tone. I lived in this space. I was always there, and I walked past that area where the bow had left a deposit of rosin and brushed past it, and there was a tone. So, okay, but the weird thing was for me, as a naive artist with no engineering background, it's like I could not tune it. I tried tensioning it further. The pitch stayed the same. I tried using a thicker gauged wire. The pitch stayed the same. Okay, but knowing about shows, seeing, the technology, say, coming from New York, especially Laurie Anderson, I thought, I'm going to find somebody in New York who could help me figure this out, because there's got to be a way to tune it. Okay, who did I find? Bob Leckie. So it was so awesome. When I first came to New York, I was at Phil Niblock's loft, and Phil introduced me to Arnold Dreiblatt. Arnold introduced me to Bob Leckie, and Arnold exposed me to Terry Fox's work. And when I heard Terry Fox's album, I thought, maybe I don't need to do this. This is sort of, I was bummed out, like, somebody's already gotten my idea. And then I pondered it a while, but I also just kept pursuing like this tuning idea. And then I thought, what I'm doing is like totally different, because hokey as it may seem compared to the austerity of Terry Fox, I want to tune it, and I want to play music, and I want to compose with it. So I just kept going. And from there, because of Arnold's influence, and I loved the idea of acoustic sound that sounded electronic, acoustic instruments that somehow sounded more like electronic music. And this long string instrument, fit that kind of desire. I was very fortunate soon thereafter, as I was like experimenting with this, working with Bob and deciding to make an acoustic box resonator, I met David Weinstein. And then I remember, I think I was in a diner in Tribeca getting coffee or something. And David drew on the paper placemat a tuning lattice to explain to me the basics of just intonation. And then in '84, Hartford, New Music America, I played an improvised duet with David. My resonator box was, I kind of start with the first idea and just, I have no knowledge, so I just do, my first thought, which was like a sheet of plywood. Okay, it was like a sheet of plywood, and then I just like built a box around it, and then drilled holes in it, and it was like an acoustic resonator. It really did something, It was really fun there because I met Jim Tenney, and he loved the installation, of course. And then I got to meet Terry Riley, and then he started calling me the long string lady. From there, it really evolved, and I just kept thinking about what I desired, even though it seemed unreachable. And it was like a miracle to continue to develop this thing because there's no historical basis for it. So what kind of resonator do you make, or how do you, but I always started from what's established, like Sitka spruce soundboard, rosewood box. That was my ultimate thing, which I did like 3 years ago. I was working with plywood for many years, just trying to do things with shape and also working on my performance technique. The kind of material the string is made of really influenced timbre. And also I studied Indian music. I studied Indian music when I lived in Austin. For 4 years, I practiced Hindustani North Indian vocal music with Anita Slawik, who was married to a professor at UT Austin and disciple of Ravi Shankar. That really had a big influence on, say, refining my sensibility regarding intonation and timbre. And so it was sort of like my desire pushed me to research technical things to try to, improve my tone. This is an ancient Indian phrase. The more you learn, the more there is to learn. The more you know, the more there is to know. Which is a wonderful feeling as an artist, to never be finished. There's always more, So on January 30th and 31st, my partner Theresa Wong and I will present our latest work called Soundless. And the title comes from Theresa's research. It's based on a 12th century female, which is very unusual, Taoist philosopher, Sun Bu-er. Soundless is part of a quote from her, which was, "In the soundless lies the pleasure all along." And the soundless refers to the infinity of the universe, and just, I think of it as contemplating the beauty of nature. And I can tell you about the piece. What's really kind of fun and funny is that Theresa, she had a commission to make a piece for electric guitar for an ensemble, and she tried working with a MIDI guitar sample and just could not get anywhere with that, and so she just realized she had to have a physical instrument. So we went to a used guitar shop in Berkeley, and she picked out a $100 guitar. It's an Epiphone, which is the Les Paul line, but it's the low end. And it sounds so good. I mean, this $100 guitar sounds so beautiful. Anyway, so she's doing all kinds of, kind of extended technique with it, and including using little bridges and playing it like a koto. She's using a ebow. It's tuned in just intonation. She's using cable ties for frets, and Theresa's playing cello as well. Our intention with this piece, on a technical basis, was to extend our tuning, try to extend our just harmonic structure further into the more extended partials, overtones, 11 limit to some 13. That was one intention. Okay, so I'm installing my instrument in Roulette. My tuning is based on cello open strings. So the two instruments really mesh together. My sound is kind of a bowed sound. I'm tuned to the fundamentals of the cello strings as well as some of the overtones of those strings. So the tuning systems, directly overlap. But when you have harmonics that are coming out really strongly, you start to hear other instruments in that sound, like like horns. You really hear horns, or the timbre of my instrument often sounds like an accordion or harmonica even. Kind of haunting voices. The tone in the roulette space must be beautiful. I mean, I've heard some things here. I've only been here a couple of times, but it's such a room filled with wood, and it must be wonderfully reflective and warm. I'm kind of like in a bubble in my own world, and it's like just keeping my own thing going is like totally occupying. And so, but the more I dig into roulette, and of course, I go back, to the 80s. But what I love about Roulette is the high level of technical production here. Artist run and really caring. And so it's like basically framing the work to show it in the best possible light. And what I really love, and am finding out recently through the work of David Weinstein and, all the documentation that he's doing, online with Ridgewood Radio, and then seeing the video station on YouTube and the super beautiful quality of the videos up there. I feel like this scene is being archived, and it is so important and so precious. And I'm just so happy to be a part of it. I haven't felt like I've been able, because my instrument is so awkward to produce. I mean, it's, the large scale and the time needed to install it. I'm just so happy to be able to, to have figured it out and to be able to produce it here and jump back in to this scene.
You've been listening to the sound of the long string instrument played by composer and inventor Ellen Fullman. The recordings you heard on this episode were provided by the artist and used with her permission. 2 nights of performances by Ellen Fullman and Theresa Wong will be available for viewing on our website later this month at roulette.org/archive. The Roulette Tapes is a part of the Roulette Concert Archives, a project made possible in part with support from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Destina Foundation. David Weinstein is Director of Special Projects and Senior Producer of the Roulette Tapes. I'm Susan James. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation. This series is produced by Roulette Intermedium. You can find thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's archives and news of upcoming events at roulette.org.